So I'm going to give you a quick overview of what we're going to be learning in this Leonardo AI course. We're going to be learning how to generate images. This is the best feature about Leonardo AI. We're going to learn how to dive into prompting. We're going to even talk about creating consistent characters in here, which is a big thing. A lot of people want to create a subject and they want it to be consistent. We're going to talk about upscaling. We're going to talk about motion, which is not as good as full generated video. That's not part of this, but we are going to talk about some motion, and we are going to talk about the real-time canvas, which is a really, really cool feature I think you're really going to like. Anyway, we'll dive straight into the course. Just wanted to give you an overview of that. So before we get started, I want to give you a quick tour of Leonardo AI and all that it has to offer, because it's a little bit more robust than your average image generation tool. So it has a couple of different things. So it's mainly built on Stable Diffusion, which is kind of one of the other main bread and butter image generation tools, other than like DALL-E and some of the others that you may have heard of. And so in here, what you can do is you can pick from a couple different functional options. So we have image generation, the real-time canvas, this thing called Canvas Editor, which we're not going to really be getting into, motion, real-time generation, and the universal upscaler. And then over here on the left-hand side, you can see a couple different things. So right here, you'll kind of see this is a set of recent creations. And as I kind of scroll down here, I have the ability to look through these different categories as some of the top creations across the Leonardo AI space. So these are just kind of there for inspiration. But if you click on them, you'll see that there's the prompt, the input resolution, even who created it, and this is if you have your images marked as public. So you can always go in here and you can always reference what other people are doing. You even have these cool features where you can say, hey, let me do image to image, let me remix this, image to motion, and then you basically instantly take this exact image and then transport it into another creation that you're making. So it's a really neat way to kind of collaborate with people or see what other people are doing, to kind of dig up inspiration for what's popular or what's cool, and just, you know, generally check things out, but ultimately to kind of guide your own prompting. So it really doesn't leave you hanging. If you are new at this, that's okay. You'll have plenty of inspiration in kind of the appropriate realms. If you want to go over to photography, you get all of these different photography style outputs. If you want to go and do something with, you know, architecture, you go over here, boom, you get all sorts of architecture stuff. It's really kind of endless. So community feed, boom, same type of thing, right? If you go to personal feed, that's going to be everything that you've generated, right? And if you go to training and data sets, this is really cool. So this is where you can start to create your own data set for your own model that you can host here on Leonardo, where you can actually create your own very fine-tuned image generation style. And to kind of lean into that, here's an example of some fine-tuned models that are available on Leonardo AI. So like if you go to one of these models, what they're going to do is they're going to create things in that style. So for instance, if I go to 3D animation style, if I go there and I use this model, everything that I generate will look more or less like this. So if I go in and I say a boy with his dog smiling walking through the forest, there you go. It's gonna look kind of like animated Pixar type style, right? And I don't have to do anything additional to do that because it's already fine-tuned in that direction. Okay, so there's a bunch of really good ones of these. There's even, like, there's one for vintage, there's one for like gaming assets, there's all sorts of different things. Thusly, you can utilize those to your heart's content. Down here you have all of the tools listed right here, and then you even have the API access, and then you have your account, things of that nature, right? So there's a lot going on, very powerful, very cool. So what I like to encourage you to do is just really to start with the image generation section, and this kind of leans into our first lesson here. Okay, so as we dive into the image generation part of this course, we're going to start over here where it says AI image generation. One thing right off the bat, this is my area where I'm creating images, and I just want to say that a lot of times if there is a female subject, this will mark it as not safe for work even when it's not. So keep that in mind when you're generating things. This platform tries very hard to keep content in particular buckets so that it's not just overflowing with things that maybe you don't want to see. So just keep that in mind. Generally, most generations, depending on how you're building them, they're not going to have that problem you just kind of saw. But you can see right here I have all the stuff that I've already made. This is just work that I've already been doing. Up here at the top I have where I can put my prompt and then click generate. I have a couple different settings over here on the side, like the number of images, whether or not I want to use certain models, whether or not I have this model called PhotoReal turned on, and that just does like hyper realistic images. It's super great. It does cost more tokens because tokens are kind of how you work on Leonardo AI. You will get free tokens available to you. I think it's daily. It used to be every 3 hours, and you will get some with a free it's not even a free trial, it's just the free access that you get to Leonardo. So you will be able to get in here for free and start working and generating images. You won't be able to do that many unless you have an account, which I do. Anyhow, you have your output resolution, dimensions, whether you'd like them to be public or not. You have your ratios. These are very important. So like, let's say you want to do Instagram, you're going to do like 1:1. Yeah, let's say you're going to do like a YouTube thumbnail, you're going to do like 16:9, right? So you can pick all these different ones depending on what sort of images you need to make, and then you know, it's completely up to you for some of the other things that you might be doing. We're not really going to talk too much about some of these settings down here. There are some advanced settings, you know, where you can change for the recommended sizes outside of it. Boom, cool. No, not really too much more going on there, but just to kind of start, one of the things that I am going to suggest to you is that you use a prompt helper. So when I say a prompt helper, I'm going to say something like a generative AI solution, a large language model like ChatGPT. So I specifically have a custom GPT called Leonardo AI Prompt Analyst, and what it does is it analyzes and gives you the best prompts available based off of your ideas, and it'll kind of format those particularly and provide them out for you. So what I've already done is I gave ChatGPT a prompt. I said, I want a black Ferrari on an Italian coastline. So it's driving around. And so I got 10 prompts. Now to start, I want to kind of show you how we build the prompts and really what's going on behind the scenes. So if I say a black Ferrari, okay, cool. So I'm going to ask for one image just to kind of illustrate this. I'll keep PhotoReal on, Alchemy, etc. You can do this with or without. We're going to try to keep your credit spend from going down, but we're going to go ahead and say generate. And as that goes and generates for us, great, we have a 3.4. We'll actually do 16.9. I'm just going to kind of show you what we get. When we start with a prompt this simple, this gives the generator a wide range to think about how it's going to provide output. So it might provide output in a couple different ways. So like you'll see with this image, we get a really cool close-up shot of one side, a driver's side of the car. Okay, great. Interesting. We don't have any other visual context to that, and that's something to really keep in mind. So just really hone that in there, because our next image that we get is probably going to be distinctly different. But okay, so cool. So in this one, we actually get the full outline of the vehicle. We get the full thing. Okay, so now that we have this full piece of the vehicle in our visual, let's see what happens when we expand the prompt. And this is where it's like really important to understand, like not just holistically like what image generation models can do for you, but like how to drive them. So like what we'll do is we'll say a black Ferrari, LaFerrari. That was just from one of the prompts. I'm not sure if that's going to be part of what Ferrari even has to offer. I don't know much about Ferraris, but so we're going to say parked, right? And so we're going to keep this parked offering here, and we're going to see that as our visual moving forward. We're going to want a parked black Ferrari, LaFerrari. Okay, so I had to refresh real quick. That's generating, right? And so we're going to see what that looks like, but then we're going to dive back into ChatGPT and we're going to kind of look at some of the stuff we had. We had a parked on a secluded beach. Now that was a really cool prompt, and I'm going to say like near Portofino. So we're gonna go with that, and we're going to add that as our next bit. Okay, so see we have the black Ferrari, LaFerrari parked, right? And let me do this. I'm actually just going to show you kind of like what would happen if we change it to driving, like I type today. Okay, so we're going to see driving, and then let's say parked next to sidewalk. Okay, so we get into all these kind of nuances. So we're sort of posing the car, and we could say driving on racetrack. Okay, so we'll get all of these different variations going, and I want to show you how it places the Ferrari in different areas based off of how we change the sort of, not just the sequence of the prompt, but kind of where we put the action words and where we put the descriptive words and how we describe the setting, because that's really important. Okay, so we're gonna say parked on a secluded beach near Portofino. That's what we're gonna hone in on. But okay, let's go ahead and look what we got here. Okay, so we have driving, and that looks like it could almost be parked, so it doesn't really look like it's in motion. That's something to critique about this output. We've already seen that one. Let's go look at next to sidewalk. Okay, so we have a sidewalk. We have the palm trees in the background. That's cool, and it does look parked, but it's kind of in a crosswalk, so that's interesting. And then we have driving on a racetrack. Perfect, nailed that one. Okay, great. And then let's go ahead and hit this prompt. Now, when we start with this output, we're not specifying whether or not this is day or night. So let's do both options. So I'm going to say near Portofino, right? And actually, this is important to note. This prompt put it on the actual beach, which we're going to say is not probably, it's not something we're going to want to do with a Ferrari. So we can say, that was what the prompt said, parked on the street bordering secluded beach near Portofino. So we'll clean that up, and we're going to say during sunset, during it is midnight, full moon, right? So we should get two different options. So we're going to we have the black Ferrari, LaFerrari, parked on the street bordering a secluded beach near Portofino. It is midnight, full moon, and then during sunset. So we should have two very different visuals here that we're seeing. Okay, cool. So right here we have a couple things. We have the fact that we're seeing kind of Italian coastline. It is parked on a road, right? So we got that, but it kind of looks like it's driving off. So for all intents and purposes, that's not really quite working the way we want. Let's look at this next one. So this one's a lot closer. It's definitely way more in line. Okay. Now what we can do is really kind of tone the parked on the street thing. We can really get into that, because see, like right here we have it's like really kind of parked on the beach, and that's kind of not realistic. So we could say parked parallel the sidewalk on the street, bordering a secluded beach, and then that will help us define exactly where this is in relation to the sidewalk, which is kind of the problem that we're starting to see in the prompts. Okay, so you can see this prompt right here. We have this, sidewalk, roadway, and then we see that this is in parallel here, and then we have this it is midnight sort of coming through, sort of not. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take this prompt, I'm going to run it over to ChatGPT, and then I'm going to say I want some different. I'm gonna express this while I'm talking. So I'm going to say I want you to take this prompt that I like, and then I want you to describe different poses and settings for the Ferrari to be in different times of day, and then I want different perspectives of it, and then can you make sure that you provide me prompts that candidly describe the visual position of where the car is on the road next to the beach, so that in the background you see the Italian coastline, you see the ocean, you can tell that it's Italy, but you can also see the black car, and it is naturally sitting in a way that makes sense on the road. And some of the problems I'm having is that the Ferrari is being shown as going off of the road or being parked on the beach, and I want this prompt that you give me to not do that. So we're gonna push that in there. I will have to just regenerate that real quick, no big deal. So now it's coming out with a refinement of the prompts, focusing on the various poses, settings, and perspectives, while ensuring that it appears naturally on the road. So we're gonna take some of these and we're gonna go all the way in. We're gonna analyze these, but we're kind of at the point where we can start to jump over to having these prompts fully copied and pasted from ChatGPT into Leonardo. So we'll just go right here. We'll start with this one. Let's kind of analyze it a little bit as we're working with it. So a black Ferrari LaFerrari is parked parallel to the dew-kissed sidewalk on a quiet street bordering a secluded beach near Portofino. The rising sun bathes the scene in a soft golden light, casting long shadows on the road. The car sits perfectly aligned with the pavement, its sleek silhouette reflecting the early morning tranquility behind the calm sea, and the rugged cliffs adorned with lush Mediterranean flora create a breathtaking Italian backdrop. Right, cool. So let's go ahead and see what's up with that. I think that one's going to be really good. Now, some of the things that we can identify that we may or may not like about this, we'll just kind of change those. But focusing in on Leonardo real quick, one of the things that I want to do is I want to show you what happens when we change some of these settings. So I'm going to change this to HDR, and then I'm going to change this to like retro, and we're gonna see how some of these little variations right here, bokeh, or however you say it, right, cinematic close-up, right. I'm going to show you how these change. Just these nuances, they add these nuances to everything right here. So let's see. Okay, so this is HDR of it just kind of on a road. All right, so that's kind of how HDR looks. So you can see this is it's actually like not as, I think when I'm thinking of HDR, I'm not really thinking of it looking quite like this, but you know, okay. So this one is the retro variation, right? And this one kind of caused the car to be a little bit warped or not as awesome as I would have liked, and maybe upscaling would kind of fix that. Be interesting to see. Now the bokeh, now this is probably one of the best ones. So I'm gonna look this up real quick. So here's the same type of car that we're looking at, and these are some more images of it. And I think, you know, one of the things that I can kind of see is that this kind of rounded bit right here, I think it's a little bit exaggerated. It's kind of close, but and maybe it's just my visual throwing off, but I think it's supposed to be a little bit more sleek. These are kind of humped right there, but you know, just keep in mind that you're gonna wanna check your visuals to really make sure that they're doing exactly what you want. Now this one I think is probably one of the best. This is for cinematic close-up, right? And I think that this did really well overall. So, okay, cool. Let's take this, and then I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this and we're gonna say that we want kind of the same, we may take a pose of a car, right? We may take something like this, right? Let's start here, and we'll get this image, right? And then what we'll do is we're actually going to do something kind of fun, right? So one of the neat things you can do is you can take your generated images, and then you can go over to this tab that says image guidance. And what you can do is you can add an image over here. And what's really cool, right? So like I'll take this one, I'll just drag it in. Okay, and so now this will be our image input for image to image prompting. And so what we'll do, we're going to want to make sure that everything is in the same aspect ratio, etc. Then we can have this strength here. I just like to maybe, like for starters, to leave it like that. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to say black LaFerrari with background of Colorado mountains, right? And so this image is going to be applied with the prompt where I'm going to say background of Colorado mountains. So I'm really going to remove all of the other details, take away kind of everything else about the prompt that was really strictly guiding these things. And then for the generation, what I'm trying to get is just a different background. and I could say background of Nevada desert, and then I'm going to say background of Dubai. Okay, so I'm gonna get 3 like kind of different places. And so right here, we had basically the same exact image that we uploaded. If you go back over here to image guidance, you'll see the stance and everything is like very much the same. And that's kind of the point, is that we took this existing image and then we're like, okay, but I want the car to be in Colorado. So here we go, right? So now we have the car and it's in Colorado. You can tell in the background, we got these mountains. It's a very different background than what we had with the Italian coastline, right? And then right here, same type of stance, same type of car, same type of quality, but now we're in Nevada, we're in the desert. So, you know, keep in mind that, you know, everything just changed, right? But we are, we're getting this different background. Same right here, cool. We have the setting, we have Dubai, great. Now, one of the things that I'm gonna do, so I'm gonna change this. I'm gonna say a black Honda Accord 2020 with background of Dubai. So I'm actually going to see if and kind of show you what happens if we kind of change the core concept to even represent a different car. So say black Honda Accord, or I'll say a black Lamborghini. Quick spelling, right? So we're going to see if we can get a Honda Accord and a Lamborghini with a background of Dubai now. And so this may be too much for it, but honestly, it's one really good thing to try out to see if you can get that. Okay, cool. So, all right. So I know a little bit about the 2020 Honda Accord body style. This is really close. It does look a little bit stretched, but we have a really great image here, and we're in Dubai. And I think we got a little bit of the visual sleekness of the Ferrari kind of polluted the Honda, even though the Honda's, got a great design. I think that that kind of slid over here to kind of make the Honda look a little bit better than it is. But if we go over here to the Lambo, I mean, this is like a near perfect output. So, this is definitely a Lambo. I'm not really sure what model off the top of my head this is. Maybe an Aventador, or, I don't know. I have to look it up. But, yeah, we have everything we wanted in the car, but then everything we wanted in the background here. So I think this is a really cool opportunity to kind of show how we can take, something like, this, we're like, hey, I want this exact image to be reflected as my base kind of input, and then we take image to image and we say, okay, let's now formulate and change things about that. Let's say, I could even say background of Arctic ice caps, right? And I can even do this like really kind of crazy stuff. So the background of European castle. So we're gonna see if we can get a black Lamborghini with a background of a castle and like Arctic ice caps. We're gonna try a couple different like crazy things on top of it, but we still have that image guidance. Really keep in mind that you need to be careful, because this will apply to every image that you generate, thus far. So if you go, you're gonna want to make sure you turn that off, go in here, delete that, if you're gonna go back and try, to generate something completely different. So that's really kind of important. So right here, not quite the direction, a little bit more mountains. We have the, snow in the background, so like that's neat and everything, but overall, like not as amazing as we could really probably strive for, right? So just, something to keep in mind. We'll see what happens with the European castle. So this one, yeah, so it's like in a courtyard of like a European castle. So really neat, fantastic, definitely cool to look at. All right, so let's go talk about upscaling. That's going to be another important factor here. We go back to the Leonardo main page, we go to Universal Upscaler. We're going to be in here, and one thing that's cool is we can say select from recent images. So we were just working with all of these prompts, and they're all going to be available in our generations tab, right? So if we want to work with any of these pictures, we can easily go through and say, cool, let me at this one, let me at that one, right? So let's take, I think, let's go ahead and start with this one. and we'll bring it over. And so we have the Lamborghini. I think this one was in Dubai. And so we have the upscaling settings. We have these different styles, and I'll actually upscale it in 4 different ways just to kind of show you what the difference is. The upscale multiplier, this is going to push this up to 7.23 megapixels, right? It's going to have a 3500 width and a 2000 height. So it's definitely going to go up quite a bit. So we're going to start with the general style. I'll upscale that. We'll do the 2D art and illustration. I'm just curious how that's going to look. And then we'll do cinematic. And then we will do the CG art and game assets. We'll actually just see kind of how those all look, and we'll upscale all of them. What we're going to get is kind of a before and after of quality that we're going to get. I think it's important to keep in mind that when we're talking about this upscaling, we have a 1700 by 1000 dimension start. So this is taking that initial image that you make and it is boosting it up to be an asset, like a truly available, higher quality, higher resolution, higher detail thing that is really mimicking way more into the realm of like high quality photography. And I think that's really important to know and keep track of here, because that is really the way that you really use these images, and you're not going to get away with doing much else. Okay, so let's see right here. So we have this kind of slider here, and it might be a little bit difficult to see, but here's the before image, and then here's the after. And there's just a level of sharpness that's added to everything about the vehicle's detail, and just a lot more. And I think if you put them side by side, it's pretty easy to notice. You'll have like some shadow definition that's a lot cleaner, where it's maybe a little bit more drippy over here, and then the colors, everything is just sort of amped up. So this is the type of thing that you can get. Now you can always go to download the selected upscaled image, and then you can even do really cool things like create motion video from this upscale just right here in the prompt. So, or right here in the upscaler, you can say, okay, cool, let me get some motion, drop that down, and we'll dive deeper into motion, but I'll just go ahead and generate that real quick, and that'll just be kind of sitting in our generations, just kind of to show you, you know, this is the car. It might try to make something happen, like it might try to make it move. You know, there's a couple different things that we're going to see happen when we go to do motion, but the big important thing is the upscaling. So okay, so let's look over here, see how this one came out. So this one really interesting, because I think you can probably see that the thing that's really getting highlighted here is the glossiness right here, and I think that this one was maybe the cinematic upscaler. I think we did general, then cinematic, and this is definitely something that you can really check. But if we want to see that, we can go to upscale details right here, and we're going to see that creativity strength, multiplier, dimensions, and then the upscaler style. So this was actually in the 2D art and illustration upscaler. So right here you can see kind of the hood is definitely like I think it's definitely more rippled than the last one. So I mean, I don't know, there's a lot going on here where you can kind of see like just reflections off of the hood. I mean, this is just a really just outstanding image. I'm actually going to download this one because I think it's cool. All right, cool. So let's see this one. This one right here, this was under the cinematic upscaler. So, you know, a lot of the same. Basically, you know, we're just getting a quality boost. Everything's just going up and getting a lot better. So all in all, just a really super great looking image. And this one right here, this is for the CG art and game assets, right? So this one, I think what I'm noticing immediately is that kind of the background right here is maybe popping a little bit more than I remember in some of these other ones. But this is kind of where the upscaler comes into play. Is there's a lot of things you can do. You can even do a little bit of prompt guidance in here, and we could kind of show you what that is. We could say vibrant color or something like that, and we'll see what that does. Or we'll say red Lamborghini. I can try to see if we can change through upscaling like the entire like color of the car, which would be crazy, but I don't think that it'll actually do that here. But that would be interesting to see. And we could even crank up something like the creativity strength, and we could be like let's say background New York City background. We'll do that. and then see what we get accordingly. Yeah, and at this point with the upscaling, the prompt guidance, like I don't think that it really brought over anything, because here's the one for red Lamborghini, and then here's the one for vibrant color, and I think maybe we got a little bit more color out of the disc here, possibly, but that prompt is really like a nuance of the upscaler. It's really not going to change the whole image at this point from this prompt guidance right here. So just, you know, something to keep in mind when you're working with the upscaler. All right, so we're going to do some exploration of the real-time generation feature in Leonardo. I think this is really cool. So if you click right here, you'll go into just a blank screen. But the cool thing about this is if you start and you design if you start with a prompt, right, the prompt grows and it generates it out for you here. So if I say something like a car, right, so now I have a car. Now if I go in here and I say a red car, right, and I say a red car driving, so we've kind of done a couple things here, but we're getting instant feedback without clicking and saying, hey, generate me a prompt. And one of the things that they have here are these elements. So these are kind of the focal models for this feature. So there's four. There's a kid's illustration, tune and anime, and the full car illustration. So if you crank any of these up, they will make it in more of the direction of whatever that model is trained on, or less, right? So if we crank this down, we could kind of land in the style. We could say something like a red car driving, a man is sitting in the driver's seat. Okay, so a man is sitting in the driver's seat, zoomed out perspective. Trees beside the road. All right, cool. So we're getting somewhere. We got to get a man in here, trees beside the road, the car is driving on the road. Great. And then we could even do something like blue car passing the red car. Okay, so maybe like right here we have a blue car is in focus. So we kind of have like a couple different things happening here, but you know, this is a super cool, super dynamic feature where you can go and you can change things. One of the things that I like to do with this is really focusing on like character creation. So like I could go and I could say like a woman, right? And I could say of Hispanic descent, okay, wearing a blue dress, tall, full body perspective, right? So you're getting to this character, and so we could say like one has Hispanic descent with, and I could even say like you know, face in focus. Okay, so like her face is, you know, cool, we're getting there. If we took this and we upscaled it, we might have something freckles and dark eyes. So we're getting to this this area right here. So I could even say like something like red hair. Okay. But then like certain elements are overriding that. So maybe we could say something like, so we have this earrings type of thing. So blue is added through some earrings. So I could say no earrings. And that may or may not take. So, you know, we're gonna have to play with that and see, you know, ultimately what or I could even say like small earrings, right, which just seems to make them bigger, right? But if you toy around with the prompts, right, you can start to do things like this. So I can even say perspective in a bookstore. Okay, so like we roughly have a very similar character at the beach. We could say like at the park, sitting on a bench. And then we can really roll into some other things. Pose is with legs crossed, right? Leaning to the left and leaning to the right. And we can try to modify this a little bit. Side of body, right? So the more descriptive that we are, the more we can kind of get out of it. And so since we already said she's sitting on a bench, we could do a couple different things. Like we have the woman, and we could even say wearing blue jeans. So wearing blue jeans, boom, done, right? And red t-shirt. It's like now we have this persona, and we're kind of changing how she looks, right? So we can start to toggle these a little bit to kind of get to more of the style that gives us more of what we're wanting, because this is definitely something that's not super straightforward, right? In terms of like what these styles are going to produce, especially with these combinations over on the side here. So we can reset those, see what we get. Okay, cool, here's what we got. Great. So what's cool about this is the instant feedback, and what I like right here is they have the upscaling built right into it. So if I say creative upscale of this, immediately, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this up. Okay, and then I'm going to say creative upscale, right? And we're going to see what that comes out as whenever it's upscale. It'll take a few seconds for us to get that, but so here you go. So here's a little bit of this is running through, and we could even take this one and we could go to the big upscaler, right? So here's the upscaled image, right? So we really took this initial character, said, hey, upscale everything. She's got a couple fingers chopped off, so that's kind of problematic, but we could download this image, take it, use it as image guidance, right? And we'll even start to do that just to kind of tie the whole thing together of how we use everything, right? So I'm going to take this, bring it over. We're going to save that. Going to go over to the original image prompting area, right? So exit real-time generation, go to image generation, and then we're going to go over to image guidance, and then we're going to trash this one, and then we're going to bring this over. Okay, great. And so now we're going to take this one, and we're going to say woman sitting in bookstore drinking coffee. Okay. And then we're going to generate that. Let's make sure the aspect ratio is good. It's 1:1. Okay, great. And then we'll go, and then what we're hoping to get is really this person, this character, upscaled, high definition, all the things, right? We're going to want to have a representation of her doing something different. We could even do like sitting in restaurant eating steak. All right, cool. So one of the things that's interesting about this is that it didn't really carry over some of the styles of the actual model. So we have kind of two different things going on here, but we do have, right, like the retention of this initial theme. So just once again, another interesting way for you to kind of see how image to image works. It will take into account a lot of the things that were in the original image, like the 3 boards. It really took 3 pieces of wood and kind of weirdly put them here. It has her drinking coffee, but then it took away the style, etc. And if I do this prompt, woman sitting in restaurant eating steak, we're gonna have once again kind of a different thing. But if you see kind of she has a slouchy kind of pose, she's sort of like leaning forward, like she might be like about to get off the bench. We sort of have that element inside of this when we use the image to image or the image guidance feature. So definitely keep that in mind, right? Okay, so yeah, the steak thing went totally wrong, right? But just something to keep in mind here as we're doing like real-time generation. It's really cool because you can take these ideas that you kind of landed with, but then kind of bounce all the way out. And then one thing to keep in mind, it kind of saved my place in here when I was generating the image. And overall, it's got, you know, my place saved, and it's got, you know, I can basically pick right up right where I left off, right? So